how to reignite your drive, motivation, and a huge topic of conversation. And I want to be very clear that I'm not this guy up on the mountain coming down like, here, I am the most motivated. Never worry about it, never struggle with it. And you, basic human being who sucks with motivation, listen to me. I'm not saying that at all. This is more of just my thoughts on how I motivate myself, because the truth is, I'm naturally a lazy person, and I do my best to learn how to remain motivated, things to do, things not to do. And we have a list of 7 things that I think are most important when it comes to getting motivated for the first time for a new thing, or how to reignite yourself to become passionate and motivated again for something that you once felt that drive and excitement for. Again, these are just thoughts based on experience and things that help me, okay? So the first one is create motion. And, this topic we can go on for hours, but I'm going to do my best to just keep it clear, concise. You guys can borrow ones that you want, scrap ones that you don't agree with. Fine by me. So create motion, what is that? And my dad would always say this to me growing up. Shout out DeCosta. You can't spell motivation without motion. And I don't know where he heard this from, but it's very insightful and quite interesting that the more that I've paid attention to personal development work and the science of how the brain works, neuroscience, there is scientific truth baked in this. I think sometimes the thing to do is to not be thinking and actually to just start by doing. And classic example I use often, and couldn't be more true, is you're motivated after you finish at the gym. A lot of people think when you go to I can't go to the gym because it's going to require too much energy and I'm already tired. The opposite is actually true. It creates energy for you. You actually feel better and more lively, more alive, more motivated after you leave the gym, after you have been in motion. So an example here, like something that you can actually do, I do with myself often. If I don't want to go to the gym, do my best to. It's not always pretty, but just I'm going to put on my gym clothes, shut the brain off. I'm going to get in the car and go to the gym. And if I don't want to be there when I walk in, I'll literally just turn around and leave. But I'm just going to drive there and go in. And I don't think I have ever gone home once I have just been in the gym. And a lot of times what I find is the objection is not that you don't want to train. It's just that you don't want to go through the all the steps that lead up to getting into the gym, sitting in traffic, picking out gym clothes, yada, yada, all of these things. Okay. So creating motion, extremely, extremely important. And even if it's not related to fitness, if you're looking to just get your work done perhaps, but you've just been scrolling on your phone or been a couch potato, you can start by doing something mundane, like just taking a shower or unloading the dishwasher or just wiping down the counters in your kitchen. And this, while it's not getting you to the ultimate thing that you would like to do, which is feel motivated to do your work, it has at least gotten you in motion. And once we are actually in motion and accomplishing things, we get a little bit of a dopamine feel-good hit because we knocked something off the list. If I didn't do anything today, at least I showered. If I didn't do anything today, at least I wiped down the counters or took the trash out. And then a lot of times we will keep that momentum going, and doing the work will be much less daunting. So get out of your head, a lot of times is the answer, and get into motion. Just get into doing something. Put yourself together, get it rolling. So the next thing is, again, guys, I'm dead ass. Like, I'm not trying to be preachy here. I hate feeling like preachy. I don't like when people are preachy or just come off preachy, I guess. I don't know. I'm there with you guys, and I'm not trying to have it be that guy. Next thing is clarify where you're going. And this is like goal setting 101, but just the way that our brain works, we need an end point. Classic example is when you get in the car, you have a destination, you know where you're going, right? Although sometimes in quarantine, I've gotten in my car and driven around without a destination just because I needed to get out of the freaking house. But 99% of the time, we know where we're driving that car to, right? Well, why don't we do that with our life and with specific aims that we're looking to achieve? A better body, losing fat, gaining muscle. Defining a goal, and you guys can look up what SMART goals are, but a goal has a definite end date and a measurable outcome. So, losing 30 pounds of fat by December 31st, 2021, or being a specific weight on the morning, 180 pounds on the morning of December 31st, 2021. That's something you can look at on that date, and it's black and white. You achieved it or you didn't achieve it. So this is also becoming familiar with the feelings that will come to you when you do achieve this goal. And the next one, and I'm going to touch on it in a second, remember why you started, is about pain. This is about pleasure. So why do we aim to do almost anything in life? Ultimately, we're just traversing, we want to move out of pain and into pleasure, away from something that's less desirable towards something that's more desirable. So the challenge with number 2 here is, and we actually should and need to sit with the feelings of what it will feel like to achieve that goal. This requires imagination. This requires stillness. This requires putting your phone down. This requires the vulnerability of being able to sit with yourself alone with nothing else to distract you, just you and your mind. How fun does that sound? It doesn't sound fun, right? Which is the problem that a lot of us have, because boredom has now disappeared. We have technology to fill in every little crevice of what could even loosely be interpreted as boredom. We can distract our life away until we die. Dramatic, but it's true. Become familiar with how good it will feel. Truly, you can write it out. I like to journal by writing because I just write more on when I have a keyboard. But really, really define why it's important to you and what feelings you will feel, and do your best to feel them, how great it will feel once you get there. Number 3, remember why you started is, and this is especially if you're looking to reignite your passion for the journey that you're on, is if, no one's perfect. We lose sight, we lose focus, we get off track, we forget ultimately why we started in the first place. We forget that pain that we were in. We forget how much it sucked. And what's really unfortunate here is if we do not realize this and we continue with this veer that we've taken off the path of getting to where we're going and this pleasure, we can end up back in that place again, or worse, potentially. Remember why you started. Remember what got you to take action in the first place, right? At one point, you were pretty damn intentional about changing stuff. And as a human, we don't like that, right? We like comfortability. We don't like to change. We don't change unless the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing. That's really when we change. Remember the pain. Remember the low feelings. Remember the feelings of not being significant or noticed, or that your life is not going to have any meaning, that you're not going to have a meaningful impact on your loved ones, on this world. It's like super heavy stuff, super heavy stuff. But I actually heard a quote yesterday that kind of paints a picture of this. If we liken growth and realizing potential, so to speak, as a tree, a tree's branches and leaves aren't going to reach the heights of heaven if the roots aren't willing to reach the depths of hell. And for me, just a visual creative brain, that is a really powerful visual of, if we're not really willing to sit with ourselves and go down to these deep places and really come face to face with demons, extend our roots down. And I'm not a psychologist either. Yeah. This is general observations of myself. I think if we have deep emotional trauma, childhood trauma, we need to speak to a psychologist, psychiatrist, and there should be no shame around that. But really facing things that have challenged us and held us back and acknowledging them, not burying them, not avoiding them, not being a toxic masculine man, for men instance, and being all hard and I'm tough and nothing bothers me. A lot of shit bothers you, and it's going to stay with you for the rest of your life if you don't acknowledge it. You heard it here. So remember why you started. I'm going to be quicker because, as you guys know, I love to say I'm going to be quick with things and then I'm not. Create a pattern disrupt. This is going to be a challenge, but we'll try to keep it quick. I think we give ourselves too much credit with having free will. We do ultimately have free will, but I think just the way that our brain works, our days are often very similar to our prior days. Our thoughts are essentially 90% or so the same thoughts as the day prior. And this is a great thing that our brain does, but for change purposes, it makes change very hard. And I find something that assists when I'm looking to make a change, drastic change, or even not a drastic change, is something called a pattern disrupt. We have patterns each day, things that we do. We get up at the same time, we brush our teeth the same way, we go to the same places at the same times. A pattern disrupt is just doing something different, putting yourself in a new environment, potentially with new people, new experience. And this gives us a new perspective and allows us to think a bit more creatively and removed from our day-to-day, and more easily allows us to become an observer, like a fly on the wall, observing ourselves when we are doing something different. A pattern disrupt that I like, that I've done on 4 or 5 occasions in my life, and this is pretty extreme, but it's fasting. I've fasted for, and I'll usually do 2 days, 48 hours, and this is no food, it's just water and electrolytes. I've done a 3-day, 72-hour fast on one occasion in 2018, but when I'm really looking to shift gears and bring about a new season of life, so to speak, based on new goals and new things I'd like to achieve, I like to start it off and gain clarity on these first 2-3 things, the pleasure I'm looking to work towards and the pain I'm looking to get away from, while I'm fasting, while I am in this pattern disrupt. Not eating food is a very extreme pattern disrupt, but I find with this sacrifice and this foregoing, I have some mental clarity and ability to see things and contemplate things that I simply don't have if I'm just going about my everyday patterns. I won't even be able to get to the state where I even want to do it. Another pattern disrupt can be going to a different gym, going to visit a friend, traveling if you have the means and you're allowed to. Going and doing something that you haven't done in a while, going and getting a massage, going and seeing a friend that you haven't seen in a while, rearranging your office, rearranging your room, rearranging your closet. So shifting our environment is a great way to do it as well. Something where there's an external reality that consistently reminds us that things are different. And why are things different? Things are different because I'm entering a new season. Yes, that's right. And then we can facilitate that change. So pattern disrupts are extremely helpful. The next one is remove from your plate. This is one that I really don't see talked about, spoken on that much. And it's essential. A lot of us are extremely busy these days. We always think about adding more to our plate, doing more. I want to achieve more, I want to do, but we don't think about removing stuff. Who are humans that aren't serving your best interest that you need to limit your time with in life? You don't have to text them and say, hey, I'm limiting my time with you now going forward. You can just not hit them up or not be quick to agree to obligations with them. This is another version of number 5 is love saying no. I didn't understand this when I was first starting out in business for myself. As a person who's a people pleaser, natural people pleaser, guilty, raise your hand if that's you, saying yes, or just say yes to stuff. Why? I don't want to disappoint people. I want people to like me. But then that leads to self-harm and you're overwhelmed and you're anxious and you have obligations, you ultimately end up letting people down because you have to cancel plans or do something, so it never really works out in the first place. Better to say no and have no be your default with new obligations, new things to do, especially if you have important goals that you're working towards. You likely can't afford to give the time and energy. Remove from your plate, remove people, remove obligations, remove projects you're working on, remove going out and drinking with people on the weekends. We only have so many, pardon my French, fucks to chill out per day. There's only so many fucks we can give. Let's allocate those in an intelligent way and intentionally, or else you're just going to give them out randomly and unconsciously. And by the end of every single day, you're going to be like, I did nothing. I don't feel accomplished. I'm still in the same place. This sucks. And you'll have no direction. Like, guard your fucks. That's what this one should be. Take stuff off your plate. You have precious dopamine, feel-good chemicals that release every day when we experience pleasure in many different things, video games, eating, and if we are keeping those on our plate, these video games on our plate, these unhealthy habits, going out and drinking with friends, which will give us dopamine and pleasure. By contrast, your work and your goals are going to look so much less attractive than doing these things that you're very familiar with because you've been keeping them around and on your plate as bringing you pleasure. And it's like, but I can just play Dungeons and Dragons. Do people still play that? My dad played it in high school, he said. My dad skipped his prom to play Dungeons and Dragons. That's my dad. Shout out Ed. I'm not throwing him under the bus, but World of Warcraft, whatever it may be, off. Get it off the plate. You're not going to die. If for your life it seems too daunting, which I'm not proposing getting rid of video games for your life, do it for 2 weeks. Do it for a week. And then move on from there. Guarantee you'll find at the end of that, it's like, I feel like a new version of myself already. That wasn't so bad. In fact, I am so grateful that I did that. Get stuff off the plate. Super important. Set standards and firm boundaries. We only have 2 more, guys. Set standards and firm boundaries. Say this every time. I'll do my best to be quick with this. Have standards for your life. And we're not perfect, and we're not perfect. So, I have standards for my life. I will compromise on them sometimes, but I will come back and I'll acknowledge. We're going to get to that one in a second. I'll just write it. Be quick to acknowledge and forgive. Thank you guys for bearing with the way my brain works. Be quick to acknowledge, forgive, but first, have standards for your life. Have places that you just are literally not willing to go to. Things you are just not willing to do. Firm boundary. And we tolerate things that are within our standards. Ultimately is what it comes down to. Is things are still sticking around in your life because you are willing to tolerate it. If you are not willing to tolerate it in your life, it would not be there. Smoking cigarettes, drinking, smoking weed every night, eating bad food every night, staying up too late each night, always bringing your phone into your bed every night and scrolling for 2 hours. Like that's your standard for yourself. That's something you're willing to tolerate. And until you consciously decide, it's a decision, that you're not willing to tolerate it and you are holding a higher standard for yourself, it's going to stay around. So like people I admire and I pay attention to, without fail, and I'm not saying they're perfect at it either, but they have standards that they're not willing to dip below, that they're not willing to compromise on, no matter what. It's self-integrity, what it comes down to, ultimately. And as I've gotten older, I'm 29. I'm not anyone older than 29. I'm not saying I'm just an old wise man with a pipe, smoking, just sharing all this knowledge. But regardless, it's super important to maintain integrity with yourself. That's what's most important. What you say to you in the mirror. If you are proud of your day when you're alone with yourself in the mirror. It's not that you've been, not productive or feeding guilty pleasures. but, oh, my wife doesn't know, or my boyfriend doesn't know, or my loved ones or my children don't know. It's not about that. It's you. It's the fact that you are, not being in alignment with who you say you are, your personal integrity. And that's how you can create an internal hell, and you don't want that. And no amount of money or any external thing will fix that. It's us. This is getting super deep, man. The last one: be quick to acknowledge and forgive. This is one that I have struggled with a lot and continue to work on, is being hard on myself. A lot of people in fitness are like, if you knew the way that they talk to themselves, you wouldn't wish it on your own worst enemy. A lot of us, especially with the ability to compare to the whole world these days, we're extremely hard on ourselves. And I think this is to our detriment ultimately. We're not perfect. You can never expect yourself to be perfect. I am not proposing by any means you have a standard for yourself to be perfect. It's a recipe for disaster, depression, and ultimately just leading a non-fulfilling life. You're going to mess up on all these things. You're going to forget all these things. It's just a reality. Like, you're going to get distracted. Things are going to pull you to the side. But what's most important is that we acknowledge it and recognize it when it happens, and we forgive, wipe our hands off, and forget. We don't hold a grudge. We don't, with someone else or ourselves. And it's just like you laugh it off. Like, wow, I really sucked for this afternoon. I did nothing. That's great. I'm going to try not to do that tomorrow. And then recommit to your goal, where you're going, the pleasure you're seeking, what you're looking to get away from, the pain. So super long, but I hope you guys found this helpful. These are things that are like, almost platitude-like, and maybe they are hard to implement in your life, but I hope this sets some of you in the right direction. I hope you guys found this helpful. I'm very confident in these things that I've written right here. And it's the truth. I'm not saying it's easy. I am saying it's worth it. And when I've implemented on these things and kept these things top of mind, it's always led to just a better existence. And I don't say that lightly. It's the truth. So if you struggle with motivation, if you struggle with drive, purpose, meaning, maybe you feel lost, you're not broken. You're just a human. Welcome, Earth. Hope you're treating your meat suit well. That's probably why you follow here. But be willing to forgive yourself, and then get on track with a clear direction. Be careful where you give your fucks. Alrighty.